All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back, or if you haven't left, to the Fast Company Grill here at South by Southwest. I'm your moderator for this session, Greg Lindsay, and a few years ago, I emigrated to Montreal, and to me, the only thing that was more foreign than the Quebecois accent was learning to actually do payments and run a business, even as a sole proprietor in a foreign country. The currency conversions, the payments, the incredible friction that I just happened to wander into without thinking about it. And I'm a sole proprietor. So I can only imagine what it's like for any entrepreneur, any business who is thinking today about basically doing business in multiple nations and multiple currencies. Because paradoxically, just as the technological revolution of the last 25 years has helped break down those barriers between countries. We're living in a time, of course, of cultural moments and geopolitics that is fracturing the world further. And so we've got a great session up here to talk about how we're going to reconcile that investment in the technology stack to create that borderless, frictionless world that we were promised in the aughts. I remember that hopeful time. And actually make it more possible for young fledgling brands to do business around the world. And so for this session, we've got a sort of a pair here. We've got at the far end, we've got two gentlemen who are working for some of the technology companies that are making this happen, including our partners at Wise. And then on this end, we have a pair of entrepreneurs with young businesses, both domestic and working internationally in e-commerce and food and beverage. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges and opportunities that they're facing as well. So thank you all so much for joining. Oh, I should, of course, introduce you all. Let's see, we'll go in which order. We'll skip around. I've got Bashak Ilhan. She is the founder and CEO of Rode, so she's working on e-commerce. Next to her is Jennifer Maman, who is the founder of Matto Espresso. Fledgling coffee brand, New Yorkers. You need to try it. It sounds an incredible concept. Next to her is Harsh Sinha, who is the CTO and U.S. president of Wise, our partners. There we go. There's the Wise crew in the house. And the far end is Seb Tavo, who is a principal of fintech technology product management at Intuit, which makes QuickBooks. I'm a QuickBooks guy myself, and of course, author and entrepreneur himself. So let's get into it. So now that I've done the formal intros of your titles, I would like you to the audience introduce yourselves, your business, and sort of the perspectives you bring to this questions of payments and loyalty and technology. So Bashak, if you would start us off.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, everyone. My name is Bashak Ilhan. I'm a 5X startup founder with 2 successful exits. And after my last exit, I founded my marketing firm called Rode Global. We have been working with international companies and helping them to grow in U.S. markets. And over the 12 years, Rode Global divided in different divisions. One of the division is Rode Retail Management, based in South Florida. We basically work with retail companies like fashion, home decoration, and cosmetic, and help them grow in U.S. market, placing them in the big department stores like Nordstrom, Bloomingdale's, and operate everything within our 50,000 square feet warehouse in South Florida and all the fulfillment. And the second division is Rode Production. We do video and photo shooting to help that retail business. And third one is very happy to announce that Rode Austin. We are here to work with just not the retail businesses, with service and the tech business, and do the same thing. The U.S. companies, if they want to launch in North Europe or Middle East, and the same thing for them. So happy to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, everyone. I wanted to let you know that I'm so excited to be here. Thank you to Fast Company for having me. It's such a great vibe here today. My name is Jennifer Maman, and I'm one of the co-founders of Matto Espresso. We are a coffee franchise with 30 locations in New York City. And our mission is powerful. Our mission is to provide, and it's simple, it's to provide high quality coffee and espresso and pastries that are affordable for everyone. And the inspiration behind this is travel to Italy, where you can go to just about anywhere and have a delicious cappuccino and espresso with a perfect foam for 1 or 2 euros. So the problem that we solve is that in America, the price of coffee has been increasing dramatically. And the experience and the quality has been going down at the same time, leaving consumers really frustrated and unsatisfied. So we address this issue by offering high-quality, affordable espresso on a $3 menu. Yes, $3 menu, fixed-price menu for everyone. And the way that we do this is through a highly efficient operation, and we offer mobile ordering through our app, which has been growing explosively.
Thank you, Harsh.
First of all, amazing company. I'm a big coffee drinker, so woohoo for $3 coffees, and they're two good quality coffees. Hey everyone, I'm Harsh. I am the Chief Technology Officer and the President of the US business for Wise. Wise is a global international company which allows you to manage and move your money across borders. We are a pretty big player now. We started on this journey about 13 years ago, where we saw the biggest problem was cross-border payments are very inefficient and pretty slow. And the main reason for that is like when you move money from, say, your Bank of America account here to doing a payment in Italy to pay for your supplier, money moves through a lot of correspondent banks. Like there's a lot of middlemen in the middle, and they all charge different fees. So actually you don't know how much you're going to pay in the end. And most of that fee is in the markup and the exchange rate. So what Wise provides you is the ability to move money across borders very seamlessly. Usually the money arrives on the other side within 20 seconds. 62% of our payments are within 20 seconds. We move about $150 billion now across the globe in cross-currency volume. And the key thing is because we don't have middlemen, the way we use is we integrate into local banking systems, which means when your bank may charge you about 4 to 6% in fees, a Wise transfer will usually take about 0.6%. And we are super happy to be here.
Thank you. And Seb.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sebastian Tavo. I'm with Intuit, so you probably know QuickBook and TurboTax, but we also do more. I'm part of the fintech team, and our role is to provide a solution to our merchants so that they can focus on selling and increasing their market share versus trying to become the expert in money movement and payment. No one wants to wake up and figure out what are the tax situation in Italy or UK. So that's part of what we are here and working. I'm a former PayPal, MasterCard, Zelle. I've been in the fintech before it was called fintech. And I'm super happy to be here. Thanks, Greg, and Fast Company.
Thank you. All right. Well, since we are in the fintech area and calling it that one, before we get to cross-border tax and currency issues, let's just talk about payments in general first, because I think, until you start delving into it, it's unclear to most about how much payments matter. It's not just a question of banks anymore, just questions of checkouts, but the convenience, the transparency. McKinsey, for example, just put out their sort of state of e-commerce where they noted that sheer speed of delivery matters much less than cost, than transparency, knowing exactly when things arrive. And so these are powerful differentiators that can make or break businesses. So I guess I first want to go to Bashak and then Jennifer here on like how you're thinking about your payment stack, or how you think about this critical function, about how you offer it and how you deal with, consumers would love an infinite choice of options, of course, but those carry costs as well. So, before we get to international, like even just domestically and scaling, like how do you start thinking through these issues about what kind of payments do we want to support and how does that tie into the rest of our offerings?
So I can look at it in a different way. So on a B2C perspective, as a consumer, you want to have all the options. You don't want to choose one. And when we're creating a brand and launching in the US, we use all the, the payment system, whatever we can use, like Google Pay, Stripe, the regular credit card payment system and everything. But on a B2B base, if I think that way, it's different. The game is different. There's so many different variation that you need to think about. So having an international employee is one thing. So we have been using Wise to pay our contractor for almost like 7 years now. And this is one thing. And the second thing is if you're doing an online retail and selling a physical product, there is a reality that you need to pay the good of sold, and then everything. The transaction can be a very big issue. So that's another thing, and invoicing also. So there are so many things.
Okay, well then the opposite would appear to be Jennifer and Matto, because even though of course Matto operates currently on a small island off the coast of America, you are focused on building like a laser focused model with the app and with your and a business model that didn't exist. And I'm curious like how you approach that and how payments is playing into that one. Are you purely doing it through the app right now?
We're doing like about 43% of our orders right now are on the mobile app, and the rest are, at the register. Yeah.
Interesting then. So how do you intend to grow that? Do you expect that to decline over time, or like what's your model for payments then? I mean, how much business do you want through your app then?
As much as possible. And I'll tell you why. I think it's helped increase our engagement with our customer. It's allowed us to have a one-on-one relationship with our customer. We know exactly what their preferences are. It helps to inform us what kind of products we want to create that they like. I know their favorite milk, their favorite syrup, and it helps us to, produce those products and also on the food end of it. I think in terms of experience, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of our competitors of customers are experiencing long wait times and bloated menus, so we keep the menu simple. The app allows us to serve our customers quickly and efficiently, so they have limited wait times. And it also helps us run a more efficient operation. It helps us reduce our labor costs. So, I think it's a win-win on the customer side and for our business as well. And we know this is working because our number of app users has been increasing dramatically. And we also, which leads to high customer satisfaction, high retention, and high loyalty. So we're continued on this path.
Yeah, no, the real coin of the realm is data. And Harsh, I'm curious how you see that playing out for businesses at large, this notion of creating this direct relationship to customers increasingly.
Yeah, I think just generally the amount of data that you're throwing off across, whether you're having a loyal customer using the app every day at the same time to even do the same transaction. Like if I was your customer today, I would drink a flat white before I start my day, and you should offer me that every day. And if you look at that engagement model and acting on the data, I have seen apps now which can do things like automated payment. Like my son eats pizza for Friday evening every day from the same place. They don't even ask any more authentication Apple Pay because we've done this transaction over and over again so many times. The cart's already ready. It's called Mod Pizza, by the way, around the corner. It's pretty good. But they've even removed the last point of friction on that order when you have to double click on the phone to Face ID because they just charge the card, and I'm comfortable with it. Because I set up autopay. But generally, if you look at it, we are seeing this also in the international realm where people are setting up recurring transfers. People are setting up things like people have an exchange rate in mind. So right now, I was in Mexico last week. We launched our From Mexico product. And there are people who are keeping such a big track on their exchange rate between USD and Mexican peso because they're very aware how much this movement is causing their business to hurt. So the Mexican peso has dropped 20% in the last 1 year. That's a meaningful amount that has changed. So people are setting up automatic triggers where they say, hey, if the Mexican peso to USD hits this number, automatically convert the currency and save me money and do it automatically for me based on the data versus me having to press buttons. So we're seeing a lot of this interaction where people are trusting the apps that they're using.
Yes, I would say someone who pays myself, someone who lives in Canada but pays myself in U.S. dollars. I have noticed this incredible widening currency gap. Well, so that's a good segue here to talk about some of the international expansion pitfalls in this. And I'm curious what you've seen because, yeah, we were having, of course, a spitballing beforehand here, and every cultural cliche is true, I think, when it comes to other societies. But I'm curious from your perspective what you've seen here. Like, what is it that entrepreneurs don't think about when they make that first leap out of their home market and suddenly discover a world of hurt?
So I think if you have not been, and I'm going to talk here as a former entrepreneur because I have a few companies that I started by accident, and I have out of 3, I have 1.5 exit. So that's pretty good. I'll tell you why there's a 0.5 there. But it's very important to understand that these little differences that you may not notice up front, when they start accumulating, they become a big difference. And that can become something that's unmanageable. So we were joking about that, like the quarter pounder, that's the royal with cheese. But there is also a difference. When you're starting doing invoicing, a net 15 or net 30 does not mean the same thing in a different country. There is a little bit more lax in the terms and the payment. You also need to be able to understand some of the local laws, right? You may not be able to report your own accounting. You may have to go through a specific group of experts that does that. And I think that's important to, as you're trying to grow to become international, to not try to become the expert in something that you don't want to control or master. If you want to move money around, you have Wise, that's pretty good. If you want to do some accounting, invoicing, payroll, you have Intuit, you have other solutions. But at the end of the day, it's like, how do you focus on what you really want to do, what you like, and how do you find the right expert to help you and support you in making the right decision? And I think that's where it's important is as provider of service to entrepreneurs, how do we think about the done-for-you experience? And, like Bashak was mentioning, B2B is very different from B2C. We are doing end-to-end B2B2C, and we see that scope of little events that may actually derail the business. And our job is to make sure that these events do not happen and prevent them. And if we can anticipate, and you were talking about data. If you can use AI to also help create these invoices or create this reminder like, hey, this person needs to pay you in 1 week, and then you have the mechanism to get that money movement instantly done, that's a win-win for the business, because then you can focus on selling more and expanding your business instead of tracking the late payments.
Bashak, I want to come back to you. What is like the biggest headache you've encountered or pitfall you walked into in this? I mean, I've discovered in my own little world here of having to do refunds in foreign currencies and how current exchange rates will change in between things, and then suddenly I can't balance my books anymore, and that's just me. But I'm curious what you've seen.
Yeah, and the refund means like a trauma to me too. And if you're doing an e-commerce, the refund is the worst thing that you can happen, but this is a reality in our life. With the money transaction, we try not to do any refund because, the countries that we work from, Europe and Middle East, is like a very difficult to do. And we are trying to find another way, like if it is a cost of payments, we're kind of trying to keep it and then doing another financing things and trying to go around it. But if you're talking about the refund in our, the online shopping, obviously it doesn't matter with currency, it is. So we have just 24 hours, maximum 48 hours to do that. And we do it, and we're using the technology, whatever solution we have. And also we have a young team. This is only their job. They're trying to, search, research, and find another solution if there is one. Because, the speed is currency. We are trying to be ahead of that. And probably we're using the best solution in the market for that reason, because that's the headache we need to manage every day.
Great. Well, Jennifer, I want to ask you a version of this question too, because your consumers might be in New York, but you're obviously sourcing Italian coffee. So I'm curious how this plays out from a supply chain perspective for you in terms of how you pay suppliers, and then how you've sort of expanded international payments in that regard, or how you're handling that or expect to as you expand your sourcing network.
So right now we get our coffee directly from Italy. Our roasters are from Italy. They've been roasting for over 100 years, and their signature is quality and excellence and sustainability. So that's great. In terms of the payments, we process refunds all the time. Sure. Domestically, it's not an issue. I think if we were to go, when we go internationally, we partner with these guys here at Wise, with the regional banks to streamline the process, like local banks to streamline the payment process. And also, the fintech companies partner with a fintech company so that our customers would avoid excessive fees. So I think that's how I anticipate that we would handle that.
Yeah, great. Well, Harsh, I'm curious if you're sort of thinking the evolution of the coast, and this is where, of course, this is the sweet spot for Wise here of like branching out to multiple countries. So I'm curious, like what have you seen the changes over just the last couple of years, particularly in the current volatility, about how fledgling businesses are handling international expansion and dealing with that, with tariffs that might or might not happen, with de minimis exemptions that are changing, with Temu and Shein, all these models that have evolved are suddenly under pressure.
Yeah, so I think just taking a step back, just curious, like how many people are business owners or founders or entrepreneurs here? Great South by Southwest crowd. The number one thing we hear when people are running their own business is, I just want to get paid on time. Number one reason, right? And then when you have the friction, when you're especially doing cross-border payments, like all the stuff I talked about before, of like different correspondence, most of the time when you get paid through a bank, you get told the money will arrive in 2 to 5 days. There might be some money that gets lost in the middle because you were told you're getting paid 10,000, but actually what shows up in your account is 9,995, and you're like chasing around $5 more. All of this has made us to realize that we need to give control back to the business owners. And the number one feature that people love to use on Wise is we give you a Wise account, and we give you local routing number and account number in different countries. So now let's say you're getting paid in the UK. You can just give your UK routing number or account number. It's called sort code and account number. But now you can control how you get paid, and you can control that you get paid in British pounds. And then you can decide whether you want to convert it today or keep it for the next time you're going to pay somebody in British pounds, maybe in 2 weeks. And that allows you to like determine the exchange rate. That allows you to understand what timing you want. If you want to hedge against, like we were giving this example of Mexican pesos dropped by 20% in the last year. So a lot of people get paid in Mexico in USD. They just want to park the USD. They don't want to bring the funds yet because they don't need it yet, right? So that control and that feature has been one of the biggest things that we've seen people of the Wise account for, is like you get a local routing number and account number in 9 different currencies and countries. And now you're banking like a local. And also it adds trust. So if you are working with somebody who's paying you in the UK or in Switzerland or in, let's say, Australia, the moment you say, I have a local account number, they go, oh, you're like a local business. I know how to do that, and I know how to pay. So you're reducing the friction to get paid and get paid fast, and then you control their destiny. Versus a lot of providers who will force you to your original currency, and then that's where they make the money on the exchange rate.
Just a quick follow-up to that. You see, you've basically been able to virtualize bank accounts in multiple countries. Because at one point I got Estonian e-residency to open up accounts in the EU, but that's kind of unnecessary.
You and I both are Estonian e-residents. And it's great. Like, by the way, it's a great setup, right? They basically think about Delaware for the world, right? And yeah, it's exactly that. We don't like to call it virtual accounts because really it's just a number in a database. There's no, like, you're never going to walk into your bank account, bank branch anyway. So these are like full-on bank accounts. And you can do everything, direct debits, credits, all the stuff that you need to do. We give you a debit account on top of that. You can spend the money.
Great. All right. Well, I want to go again back to Seb, forward looking here. Since you mentioned you were a veteran of all the fintech wars before, what do you find most interesting about the current environment in other countries that we could learn from? I mean, I've spent some time looking at like the super app model out of Southeast Asia, of like omni-commerce there. India's going through a whole e-commerce boom. I'm curious, what do you think are the most interesting lessons you're seeing right now that might get incorporated back into a U.S. context or into other contexts? Or what is the next great innovation when it comes to payments and fintech?
So I think the most obvious one, and someone has to say it, right? AI, that's a big one. But when you look at it, what is behind AI, again, it's data. And if you have the right data and the data quality is the best one, then you can start building proper agent to do tasks for you. What I've seen is, like, for example, in France, there is a big drive to make AI more socially acceptable, I will say, across all the strats of society. So at the merchant level, at the banking level, at even like the educational level. So all of these elements drive innovation forward. When you look also, you mentioned the super app in Asia, but these are things that are becoming more obvious. And the big trend that we are seeing is, as before, the fintech industry for the past 5 years was mostly you could have a startup highly specialized in one thing, and then you could grow. Now we are seeing what we call like the great rebundling, where actually all these little segments are being consolidated into these big services provided by one or two entities, because as user, you don't want to have to figure out how to manage 12 or 15 or 20 vendors or apps. You want to have one, and you want one or two, and you want that to be done right. So that's the big trend that we are seeing, is the great rebundling is happening. And the AI wave is pouring a lot of things outside of fintech, but that are folding back into the fintech world.
Well, I want to say that it was in the pages of Fast Company where Netscape's Jim Barksdale famously said there's only 2 business models, bundling and unbundling, but that's too good to fact check, so don't limit me to that. But I want to come back to Bashak there on this. I'm curious, and Jennifer, how are you using AI in this? Or what are the innovations you're out there looking at that you're incorporating into your business? Or where do you think like the next edge of this is going?
Sure. Personally, I use ChatGPT, but I have a funny thing to say as well. So be careful saying, asking the questions, and because the ChatGPT will know you better than your mom, and then you're talking about your shortcomings too. But so business-wise, transforming, international European companies to American or vice versa, it needs a lot of, research. We need to check the trends. We need to check all the local, the sales points and everything. We're using AI to make that process easier because, you can just give all your questions and you can check the data, and AI is doing like summarizing those things and making our team's life easier. Before that, we worked as a different departments. One of them was checking something and the other one, and they were getting together and then doing a lot of meetings and stuff. So that process is very, very easy for now. The retail perspective, of course, as a retailer, we know what our buyer wants and buys, and what is the current, when do they buy it, how many times do they buy it in a week and stuff. We use that. Also, we use local weather as well. We are not showing something really heavy in Florida, for example. And we are doing the opposite thing. If Austin is cold this week, so we are pushing that kind of a clothing if we're talking about the fashion brands. So we try to use AI with everything, but those are the main areas that we have been focusing on.
Great. And then Jennifer, not necessarily AI, but I am curious, like what technological innovations on your radar with your laser-focused business this way?
Well, I would say also we use ChatGPT a little bit, but I think as we go into new markets, we'll be using AI to get data analytics and the customer preferences and what they like. And I think on the inventory side, we'll be using AI to help, especially since we have a highly efficient business model, we're always looking to become more efficient. And I think taking it to the next level to help us on the inventory side to eliminate waste. I think that we're going to be using that a lot with that, and also just to identify who really are our customers. But again, right now, our app really gives us so much great data on the customer that it helps us to really serve the customers in the best way.
That is a good reminder, folks, that not all AI is a large language model. So yes, there's just good old-fashioned AI as well, machine learning. Harsh, I want to throw the same to you. I mean, what is the wise product map of the next couple of years here in terms of how where you see these technologies evolving and how you're incorporating them?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been around for like 13 years and we're a tech company. So, before LLMs became fashionable, like we've been using AI and ML models, machine learning models forever, from the early genesis of the company, including whether, you're like fighting fraud, you're looking like transaction monitoring, especially when you're doing cross-border payments, there's a lot of checks you have to do. And one of the reasons why we can provide you the same service to move money around the world at 0.6% versus other banks charging you 4%, is because how efficiently we can use technology on the overall data sets we're seeing, right? So people may be needed in banks, people may be needed to stop and check the payment. We can do a lot of those checks and reduce the false positives by just data, and then really put people where you need to double check something's being stopped. But I do think like with the evolution of what's happening with the LLM world, we are doing quite a bit of stuff around even simple things like experimenting faster with marketing pages. So if you want to do translation of marketing pages in different countries and different concepts, now the turnaround time is minutes to get a base page up, and then you put a human to iterate it versus like what could be 7 days before, right? So that's just one example. I think something that you could apply as you start expanding to different countries. But even if you look at things like how do we take large swarms of data and just like iteratively help engineers and product folks just work through different data set insights, it's just become much, much more faster, right? So that's how we're using it.
Great. All right. We only have a few minutes left here, so I want to end with a lightning round. Given the show of hands earlier about the number of entrepreneurs who are here, I would love for each of you to share one thing with them that you wish you'd known at one point. We've got many multiple successful exits on stage here, so I know you've learned lots of things. Seb, again, we'll start with you and we'll come down the line here. But yeah, what's the one thing you want to get across?
I think the first thing that I will share with any entrepreneur is don't be shy and ask for help as soon as possible. I try a few businesses and I tried to do it on my own. I didn't understand necessarily how to raise funding. I didn't have the best term sheets. So sometimes, it may look like a lot of money to pay that lawyer's fee, but it may be very good down the road. So don't be shy to ask for experts.
All right. That's good general advice. Harsh.
Keeping from the expert idea, I think something you said before, look for specialized tools that help you solve the problem you're working on, whether it's international expansion, whether it's accounting, especially when you're operating in different countries, there is quite a bit of nuance. So do what you do and know how to do, like sell coffee very well and build amazing experiences for them, but then give that part of the, maybe the boring stuff and look for experts there.
Great. Jennifer.
I would say, okay, first of all, it's always about the customer. And keep things simple. Throwing more things on the menu, more drinks and more food isn't necessarily going to get you more business. What's most important is to deliver a high quality product perfectly, the food, the drinks, and a great customer experience. And that will keep the customer coming back. The second thing I would say is the flexible business model. If you can replicate it easily, it's scalable. If you have a low cost structure, it's scalable. If there's a great demand for your product, it's scalable. So all those things to keep in mind when you're growing your business.
I'm back in New York in a few weeks and I cannot wait to try it. But Bashak, the last word, please.
I have a lot to say. I have been, founder, and also I work with startups, and established companies just launching in other countries, kind of a startup too. But personal one, I know having a lot of hats is not easy, and then running a startup or running a company is not easy. My suggestion would be don't forget to be thought leader and networking. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you know, how much you know, and it matters that who do you know. So that networking, knowing the right people can change your life in one day. So speaking and engaging and trying and exactly, I agree with him, asking without, being shamed is very important. If sometimes you can know someone and it can change your life.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. I've learned a ton from our entrepreneurs on the stage. Please give a round of applause for our panelists here. Thank you all so much for all that hard-earned wisdom.